Hi, this is United24 Media. Today we're talking about Russian forces have been pushed out from their positions in the Serebryansky forest in the Luhansk region. Several Russian regions were under drone attack this week. What has been targeted? After Putin's visit to Pyongyang, South Korea is to reconsider its ban on the supply of lethal weapons to Ukraine. While the first F-16 fighter jets will be delivered this summer, Ukrainians are working with equipment that is available now. This footage released by Ukraine's Air Force commander shows the combat work of the pilots of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade. The commander stated that with the upcoming arrival of Western aircraft to the tactical aviation units, the pilots are doing their best and the current flights will prove effective. The ground staff works to keep these aircraft in the combat-ready condition and out of Russian sight. US-supplied F-16 fighter jets will be stationed within Ukrainian territory, said the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in an interview on PBS. He noted that the bilateral security agreement between the United States and Ukraine reinforces that the provided F-16 aircraft will be located on Ukrainian soil. He further emphasized that Ukraine can, in the event of a threat, use the provided air defense systems to target Russian aircraft, even if they're within Russian airspace.
First, we are permitting Ukrainian forces to attack Russian forces using Russia as a sanctuary in the areas where on the battlefield they are attacking from inside Russia with artillery, with other ground-based munitions. Second, we've made clear, and we have seen over the course of the past 2 years Ukraine do this, that they can use air defense systems, including those supplied by the United States, to take Russian planes out of the sky, even if those Russian planes are in Russian airspace, if they're about to fire into Ukrainian airspace.
Scenes from the Russian-destroyed Sonich stadium in Kharkiv were displayed in Munich ahead of the first Ukrainian game in Euro 2024. The president of the Ukrainian Association of Football, Andriy Shevchenko, explained how the sport facility was the training base for both the Dutch and the Ukrainian national teams during the Euro 2012 championship. The stadium was destroyed by Russian shelling in 2022.
We're a very young, ambitious team, like our country. I think if we get through the group stage, it's going to be a very good result for us. We are here also to support our country, to send the important message for the world that war in Ukraine is continuing, and we have to all together bring the forces and find the pieces.
Russian forces have amassed up to 10,000 personnel and 450 pieces of military equipment, including 200 artillery systems, in the area of Raihorodka to Novodanovo, reported Deep State. According to their analytics, Russia will likely try to repeat last year's attack on Bulava in the Kharkiv region. Over the past 3 weeks, they have been conducting preparatory activities and looking for weaknesses in the defense of the Ukrainian armed forces. Despite constant losses, around 300 newly mobilized Russians arrive every week. The fighters of the 3rd Assault Brigade, which are holding the defense on the border of Luhansk and Kharkiv regions, confirmed this information. In the statement published on their Telegram page, defenders underlined Russians are attacking with tank regiments, using a significant amount of artillery and also private military companies and special forces units. They are using FPV drones, guided aerial bombs, and chemical weapons. Since May, about 1,000 Russians have died there, with more than 2,000 wounded. Russian forces have been pushed out from their positions in the Serebryansky forest in the Luhansk region. Sviatoslav Palamar, deputy commander of the Azov 12th Brigade, attributed this to efforts of Azov fighters. The withdrawal was the result of the joint offensive actions carried out by the units of Azov and Bulava brigades in April. Last week, we reported the lifting of a long-standing ban on supplying American weapons to the Azov Brigade. For the last decade, the Azov Brigade could not access U.S. weaponry because of a U.S. policy prohibiting the provisions of military aid. The prohibition was influenced by Russian propaganda spreading myths about the brigade. Finally, the Department of State reported that they found no evidence of the brigade committing any violations. United24 Media analyzed and debunked 5 main myths surrounding the Azov Brigade. Read more about this on United24Media.com. At least 3 districts of Russian Krasnodar region were under drone attack last night, reported the local government. In particular, explosions were heard near Yeysk, the location of a military airfield. Local residents posted videos of the fire on social media. Later, it was also reported that a drone crash caused a fire at an oil refinery near Krasnodar. Defenders of the 22nd Brigade captured a Russian T62 tank along with its crew. This was achieved thanks to the coordinated work of unmanned systems units, artillery and infantry, according to a post on the brigade's Facebook page. The press officer of the brigade told journalists of Ukrainska Pravda that the capture took place near Klishchiivka in the Bakhmut front.
Getting out of this tank is a big problem, especially if you wear full protective gear. The hatch is very small, it's inconvenient. The visibility is very low.
Our team had the opportunity to talk to the Ukrainian crew of an M1A1 Abrams tank in eastern Ukraine to find out how they perform on the battlefield and what challenges they face.
Most of our tasks were preventing the defense from being breached. We focused on stopping light vehicles from passing through and infantry from entering our positions. But most of the fighting was done at a distance. There were times when we shot at tree lines, literally 700 meters away, trying to dismantle them with our fire. There was one case where a Lancet drone came at us while we were standing still waiting for the order. The branches above us saved us. That's one I won't forget anytime soon. The tanks themselves held up well. Those first missions without extra protection were rough, and we took some losses. Things are a bit better now, though. We've managed to add some protection, and the tanks are performing as expected. We keep working. That's what we do.
The Security Service of Ukraine has eliminated more than 1,000 Russian tanks since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Most of them were destroyed in Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. For effective elimination, the Security Service conducted joint operation with the armed forces, chiefly using unmanned systems. According to the Security Service, a large number of these tanks were destroyed before they could start their attacks on Ukrainian positions. Ukraine reported Russia has killed more than 12,000 civilians since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This was stated by the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, Andriy Kostin. These figures only represent the confirmed data. The real numbers are likely to be far higher. Obtaining more accurate data is not possible due to Russia's occupation of Ukrainian territories. Kostin emphasized that law enforcement officers have already documented almost 130,000 cases of war crimes committed by Russia. Russians beheaded a Ukrainian soldier in Volnovakha district of Donetsk region, said Andriy Kostin. On his X page, he wrote that on Monday, the Ukrainian military received information that one of the Russian units had been ordered not to capture Ukrainians as prisoners, but to behead them. Later, aerial reconnaissance found a damaged armored car of the armed forces of Ukraine with a human head on the hood.
This terrible barbarism must have no place in the 21st century. And this is yet another proof that the war crimes committed by the aggressor are not isolated incidents, but a planned strategy of the Russian regime.
Ukrainian defenders on the front line are expected to receive more weapons after the world leaders meeting in Switzerland. A tank commander explained it's important to talk to Russia from a position of strength, and soldiers are ready to fight for every piece of Ukrainian territory.
I think this is good sense from the world's political leaders, that we will be given weapons. We will chase away the enemy from the territory of Ukraine, because you can talk to them only from a position of strength.
That's what 58-year-old tank commander with the call sign Kuzia said last weekend. Even while defending the land in the east of Ukraine, he and his unit find time to follow the first summit on peace for Ukraine. They are also aware of Vladimir Putin's statement on negotiations.
Putin's statement that we need to give away part of our home is just absurd.
Soldiers are ready to fight for every piece of Ukrainian territory.
Putin's statements are empty-sounding.
Kuzia and his unit are hopeful that Western allies will supply more weapons to Ukraine.
They must come to an agreement about the help for Ukraine, with weapons, spare parts, and ammunition. It is time to end the war. Of course, not under the conditions that Putin made up in his mind to give away half of Ukraine.
But what is much needed now is aviation, said the tank gunner with call sign Fierce.
Even having the resources we have on the ground now, we managed to hold the enemy and even to take back territories. But we are vulnerable in the air.
Tank loader Alchemist added, he believes that despite it being the 21st century, war and weapons have the last say.
There's a proverb, a country which doesn't feed its own army will only end up feeding the army of another nation. And this can be expanded to a global scale. We need to take care, restore, and create a strong, better army.
Ukraine could receive Storm Shadow cruise missiles in the new military aid package from Italy. Fatto Quotidiano newspaper reported that Italy's Minister of Defense Guido Crosetto is set to present the country's parliament with the 9th package of military assistance to Ukraine by the end of this month. Sources indicate that alongside the previously promised SAMP-T air defense systems, this package may include a shipment of Storm Shadow missiles. Ukraine unveils the Mace suicide drone known domestically as Bulava at Eurosatory 2024, one of the world's largest defense exhibitions. It has a total takeoff weight of 11 kilos, can carry a warhead of almost 4 kilograms, and features a combined cumulative, penetrating, and thermobaric effect. Its electric motor enables speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour and can stay in the air for over 50 minutes. The drone has a length of 1.5 meters and wingspan of 1.6 meters. Another Russian attack on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. On the night of June 20th, Russia used 9 missiles and 27 Shahed drones to strike energy facilities in 4 Ukrainian regions: Vinnytsia, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, and Kyiv. The national power company Ukrenergo reported that 7 employees were injured because of shelling. The tech energy company underlined that this is the 7th massive attack on their thermal power plant in the last 3 months. Over the past week, partners have announced support for the Ukrainian energy system amounting to more than $1 billion, said Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. According to the statement, the United States is providing $500 million in additional energy assistance through U.S. aid and redirecting $324 million to restore energy infrastructure. Norway will make a $74 million contribution to Ukraine's energy resilience. A part of these funds will be used to repair facilities in Kharkiv and the region. EU countries have agreed the 14th package of sanctions against Russia. For the first time, they are targeting supplies of liquefied natural gas. The package bans its re-export in EU waters but does not stop its import. The Belgian presidency of the Council of EU posted on X that the 14th package of sanctions not only provides new targeted measures, but also maximizes the impact of existing sanctions by closing loopholes. New measures will also tackle Putin's shadow fleet and shadow banking network abroad, added EC President Ursula von der Leyen. The latest Ukrainian maritime drone was presented at the Black Sea Security Forum in Odessa. The unmanned boat Stalker 5.0 is 5 meters long and 1.2 meters wide. It has a special compartment that allows the delivery of water, food, military equipment, and other cargo to areas of the coast where the Ukrainian forces are stationed. The maritime drone can also be used for reconnaissance and coastal patrolling purposes in sea and river border areas. Russia's occupation of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has cost Ukraine over $5 billion. This was reported by the acting chairman of the company's board, Petro Kotin. The state-owned Energoatom has not yet calculated the losses from the forced relocation of the power plant employees to Ukrainian-controlled territory. Kotin mentioned that due to the plant's downtime, the company loses approximately $162 million each month. Russian propagandists released a video claiming to show the first use of the Fab 3000 M54 equipped with a controlled gliding and correction module. The munition was reportedly deployed in Liptsi, Kharkiv region. Ukrainian journalist Andriy Tsaplenko reporting on this said the Ukrainian experts will evaluate whether it was actually a Fab 3000. With streets and buildings decorated with Putin's portraits, the Russian self-proclaimed president visited North Korea for the first time in 24 years. At a welcoming ceremony at Pyongyang airport, he was greeted by North Korea leader Kim Jong-un. Later, during a bilateral meeting, the North Korean leader stated that the country fully supported the Russian government, army, and people in Russia's war in Ukraine. The two countries also signed a strategic partnership agreement which includes military assistance to each other in the case of aggression. A senior fellow at the Stimson Analytical Center in Washington, D.C., Jenny Town, said that because North Korea and Russia are both suffering under international sanctions regimes, they have an interest in buffering their mutual support.
Russia is the first country, basically since the collapse of the Soviet Union, that's been willing to offer North Korea, military cooperation. And so this does give North Korea opportunities to upgrade their hardware in their conventional side, as well as their military reconnaissance satellites and their space programs, which Russia has said openly that they'd be willing to do.
Russia is trying to develop and strengthen relations with countries that can provide it with the needs to continue its war of aggression against Ukraine, said U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. In Washington, he met with the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. During the joint press conference, they discussed Putin's visit to North Korea.
North Korea is providing significant munitions to Russia and other weapons for use in Ukraine. Iran has been providing weaponry, including drones, that have been used against civilians and civilian infrastructure. And as I mentioned a moment ago, the deep concerns we have about China, not in terms of providing weapons, but in providing what Russia needs to keep its defense industrial base going and to produce itself more tanks, more munitions, more missiles.
Meanwhile, Jens Stoltenberg underlined that Putin's visit to North Korea demonstrates the very close alignment between Russia and authoritarian states.
Putin's visits to North Korea demonstrates and confirms the very close alignment between Russia and authoritarian states like North Korea, but also China and Iran. And this also demonstrates that our security is not regional, it's global. What happens in Europe matters for Asia, and what happens in Asia matters for us. And this is clearly demonstrated in Ukraine, where Iran, North Korea, China are propping up, fueling Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine.
After North Korea, the plane of the self-proclaimed President Vladimir Putin landed in the Vietnamese capital of Hanoi. The Kremlin leader was given a red carpet welcome by the Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister. During the two-day visit, Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Vietnamese counterpart To Lam took part in the exchange of several signed agreements, including bilateral cooperation on oil and gas, nuclear science, and education. Vietnam became the third nation Putin has visited after China and North Korea since he was sworn in for a fifth term in May this year. After Russia and North Korea signed a security agreement, the South Korean government plans to reconsider the ban on the supply of lethal weapons to Ukraine. Additionally, the country will increase the number of goods that will be banned from export to Russia, including heavy industry products.
The government expressed serious concerns and condemned the comprehensive strategic partnership agreement signed between North Korea and Russia, which aims to strengthen their mutual military and economic cooperation. The issue of providing weapon support to Ukraine will be reconsidered.
Ukraine will get a new Frankenstein air defense tank designed to shoot down missiles and drones. New equipment was promised by German arms company Rheinmetall, reported The Telegraph. The company announced that it will install its modern Skyranger anti-aircraft systems on Leopard 1 tank hulls, creating a new weapon to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities. Romania is to provide Ukraine with a Patriot air defense system. This was decided during a meeting of the Supreme Defense Council chaired by Romanian President Klaus Iohannis. The Council underlined the worsening security situation in Ukraine due to constant and massive Russian attacks on civilians and critical infrastructure, particularly energy targets. This decision, made in consultation with allies, aims to address regional security concerns, including those affecting Romania. And the United States will redirect all existing orders for Patriot air defense systems and interceptor missiles to Ukraine until it has the needed volume of air defense to protect itself from Russian strikes. The spokesperson for the Department of State confirmed this decision yesterday. Ukraine will not be seeking direct contact with Russia at the second summit on peace for Ukraine, but it is possible to use the experience of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, said the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. In that initiative, Turkey and the UN acted as intermediary for talks between Ukraine and Russia. The summit was attended by 92 countries and 8 international organizations and took place in Switzerland last weekend. The outcome of the 2-day event was a joint communiqué on a peace framework and was signed by the majority of participants.
Here's the Swiss town Bürgenstock, several thousand kilometers away from Ukraine. However, last weekend this was the place where talks about the country invaded by Russia didn't stop for a minute. Bürgenstock is the first place to host the summit on peace for Ukraine.
Ukraine never wanted this war. It's a criminal and absolutely unprovoked aggression of Russia, and the only one who wanted it was Putin.
This 2-day summit was attended by 92 countries and 8 international organizations. Moscow was not invited. Just before the summit, the self-proclaimed Russian president once again declared his demands for starting peace negotiations, that Ukrainian forces should leave 4 Ukrainian regions.
What is most interesting in watching these last 2 days is the split screen of this weekend with what we heard from President Putin as he laid out his vision for peace a couple of days ago, where he said, not only does Ukraine have to give up the territory Russia currently occupies, but Ukraine has to leave additional sovereign Ukrainian territory before Russia will negotiate. And Ukraine must disarm so that it is vulnerable to future Russian aggression down the road. No responsible nation can say that is a reasonable basis for peace.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said they understand there will be a day when Ukraine will have to talk to Russia. But the position is obvious. Kyiv will not allow Moscow to use the language of ultimatums, as it does now.
We need Russia to participate. But the strong message of today is that peace is only possible if Russia abides by the basic rules and values which apply to all of us. Let us not forget.
Throughout the 2 days, leaders discussed 3 out of 10 points of the Ukraine peace formula, those concerning nuclear security, food security, and the release of Ukrainian deportees and prisoners. The result of this work became the official joint communique on a peace framework.
Any use of nuclear energy and nuclear installations must be safe, secured, safeguarded, and environmentally sound. Secondly, food security must not be weaponized in any way. Thirdly, all prisoners of war must be released by complete exchange. All deported and unlawfully displaced Ukrainian children and all other Ukrainian civilians who were unlawfully detained must be returned to Ukraine.
The document was signed by 78 countries and 4 international organizations. But it remains open, so other nations can sign it later. Plans for the next summit are already underway.
We are at a war, and we don't have time for prolonged work. Moving to peace means acting fast. Preparations will take months, not years.
But Russia can start the negotiations anytime, said Zelensky.
Russia can start negotiations with us tomorrow, not waiting for anything, if it retreats from our lawful territory.
NATO is facing one of the most consequential moments for Europe since World War II, said US President Joe Biden during the meeting with the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg in Washington, D.C. The US capital will host the 75th Anniversary Alliance Summit next month. According to Jens Stoltenberg, during the event, NATO's 32 members will need to take important decisions, not least on defense spending. He also expects NATO to take a lead role in supplying security assistance and training to Ukraine.
As long as President Putin believes that he can win on the battlefield, that he can wait us out, there will be no lasting and just peace in Ukraine. So if you want a peace in Ukraine, the best way of achieving that is to strengthen Ukraine's military capabilities so they can negotiate from a position of strength and ensure that Ukraine prevails and survives as a sovereign independent nation.
Drones have targeted a petroleum facility in Russia's Tambov region, causing a fire at one of the storage tanks. The regional governor confirmed drone attacks in the two municipal districts of Pervomaisk and Raskazovo, where a fire was reported at the Platonovskaya petroleum facility. In the morning, a Russian news agency claimed that Russian air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 15 drones overnight in 5 regions. That's it for today. We're United24 Media. Thanks for being with us and see you next time.